You know, usually I wait till the weekend to do the big roundup of the news for you, but honestly this time just couldn't wait because there's quite a lot going on, some exciting early PTR updates. Blizzard's reaction times to things are getting mighty fast. They've already responded to, well, even more class change stuff, tier set stuff, and the Mythic Plus Affix feedback. With some PTR changes, some promised future ones, it's actually pretty damn big stuff, so let's jump in. Okay, data mining has found out the 10.1 is going to feature a pretty special event, a Diablo 4 launch celebration. It's called Welcome to Sanctuary. Now, the description reads, strange winds blow in from another world. Sightings of odd bag-holding creatures spot the land, and heroes are filled with renewed vigor. Treasure goblins can be spotted from to be decided, to be decided, who knows where that's going to be. The winds of Sanctuary blow in from, and then 2 dates. So, we don't know what dates those are going to be, but with Diablo 4 launching for Deluxe and Ultimate Edition pre-orders on the 2nd of June, and the full launch on the 6th of June, I would imagine in and around that time, maybe for a few weeks, so that people don't feel torn about which game to play. Now, the best part here is that Winds of Sanctuary, like with Winds of Wisdom that they ran before, is a 50% XP buff. A bit of a shame it won't run alongside any time walking, because that would have been absolutely insane for level gains. But if you maybe want alts to play in 10.1, that's going to be your time. It also adds an 8% buff to reputations, except for the new Nithin in 10.1. So again, it'll be a pretty great, great opportunity to go to the Forbidden Reach, pick up the Envoy, and then finish any old renown that you're missing with an 18% boost on top of whatever catch-up you may have in your characters. Then, of course, we've got the Treasure Goblins too. They actually drop bags of stuff. We don't know much more than that. There's a 16-slot bag, which is odd, a new Bellular pet, and a Enmity hood and cloak, but no model has been found for those. All in all then, it's a nice little event to celebrate Blizzard finally releasing a big new game. And for the longest time, I mean, doing crossovers and stuff like that, it feels like Blizzard really missed a beat not doing that. It's actually something FF14's done to a lot of success, so I suppose it's nice to see them do it. Okay, next then, we have some amazing Heritage armor stuff. Sadly, it does appear that this is going to be a patch 10.1 thing, so it won't be Affixes in for you right now, but basically, obviously, the orcs and the humans make a lot of sense, and the nice thing is that Heritage quests for non-allied race characters will no longer require Exalted with their home faction. So that basically means that if you're leveling a new character, right, just for those quests, or perhaps you have an untouched alt, that means that you can skip the tedious sort of 2-hour or so grind in Magister's Terrace or Mackinac to get rep, and you can go straight into the Heritage quest lines, which are great. I would assume Blizzard have maybe seen that even though these are fantastic quests, a lot of people haven't experienced them, so in 10.1, they're going to make that change that you don't need to do the rep grind to get through to them. This has happened for like 5 expansions in a row now, where something sold in the store has actually ended up being a pretty massive hint towards the next expansion for the game. I guess they find some asset that was finished early and they just decide to, well, make a quick buck. So the Waveborn Diplomat's Regalia is a set. You can buy it for $20 on the store, like with those other Transmog sets that came before, but there's something different that, yeah, doesn't feel great. This was actually marked as a trading post set in-game. The emphasis here is on the word was, because they very quickly hotfix that label off. So what's going on? Is Blizzard realizing that they need more money, so they downgraded a trading post reward to some Loon-themed swords, which is a bit of a weird one because only sword users can actually use them, and then maybe they decide to sell the original reward instead. While that is definitely it's a theory, I can't prove it obviously. If it is true, that's unfortunate, that doesn't really feel good. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see for the next Activision earnings call if they actually mention anything about WoW's revenue. I have to imagine it's that situation of like they're doing all they can to deliver content, but it's just going to take time to win people back because they were rightly put off the game for quite a long time. Anyway, from the unfortunate on to the expansion teasing. Okay, there are a lot of sets that we can speculate on, but one theme that 1007 sold us on, or one thing anyway, was pirates, right? We saw those pirates, you pick up that pirate book and you learn about the Night Squall, this legendary pirate captain who's going to get together, who has returned from the other side of Azeroth, is going to get a massive, pirate fleet going, all that crazy stuff. Now, what's also in the water and in patch 1007, obviously, it's the Naga. Who leads the Naga? Well, that would be Queen Ashara. She is coming back from the Void. We've got a video on that on Saturday, by the way, so stay tuned for that. But of course, what else is related to the Void? Well, the Dark Moon Fair. Yeah, you might not get that immediately, but just look around the Dark Moon Fair. Look at all the spooky stuff that there is. There's long been a conspiracy theory that we've not really talked about much on the channel about Silas Dark Moon and a bunch of Old God related stuff. And now, of course, the Dark Moon Fair Harlequin set, that was last month's trading post set. Now, what else is related to Ashara? Obviously, the Night Elves are related to Ashara. Any big story with Queen Ashara, it does make sense to bring Night Elves into it. Of course, Night Squall, that pirate captain that was revealed in 1007, well, the Night Squall is a Night Elf. Of course, the Night Elves worship Elune, and the very first monthly reward from the trading post was Ashadar, which was a Night Elf mount with a Sun and Moon theme, and there, of course, there's the data mining that has a matching armor set for Ashadar. Then, of course, we have the Fire Plume Regalia, which is the last in-game store set. It is themed like the sun, and funny enough, the one before that was all starry and cosmic. So, I mean, our next expansion, if we think about everything they've been talking about, even the Old God hints that are in and around Dragonflight, that are certainly going to be involved in 10.1 when we see Deathwing's big laboratory. Well, we got pirates, we've got Naga, we've got Night Elves, we've got the Moon, we've got Elune, therefore, we have the Sun, we have the Stars, we have the Void. So there you go, Blizzard, you've been Columboed, we have you sussed. Now, as if there wasn't enough Void in today's news, we do have a new set of data mined titles. Most of these are the usual affair, but there's one that I almost certainly will not get. It's for defeating Sarkareth on Mythic, and it's worth paying attention to because it's called Heir to the Void. That'd be a pretty sick title to have for your character. We'll have to see if there's a sudden change in gear with the story, after 10.1, but things sure are ramping up hard and fast towards Void being involved, and it is starting to make me wonder if this expansion's last patch will be on a particularly purple note, or if it will be very much, Morazon, Iridicron, and instead that BlizzCon will be a bit more tentacle-themed, showing off whatever the next expansion is going to be. I mean, we've kind of thrown a lot of things together and spitballed some sort of idea of an Azeroth, Sun, Moon, Pirate, Night Elf, Void expansion on the other side of things with the Night Squall. Maybe that'll be 2 expansions away. But anyway, it's a pretty cool title, especially for Void Elves and Shadow Priests. And for our final bit of Void spook, there's this Drakthir model that Keyboard Turn found, and it does look a bit like a dead Drakthir that's been revived by the Void, or something like that, which is maybe worth thinking about. Next, though, gameplay, and while this is not the overwhelming revamp that many people wanted, Blizzard have certainly been quick to address some of our issues with the new Mythic Plus affixes that they announced, and they've, explained a bit of what they're going for. So, Afflicted, they say, is meant to incentivize a greater focus on Dispel utility, while offering healers and off-healers alternatives, though, through, of course, healing the thing up. Now, they say that they're going to have a lot less health since they made them way too hard to heal. Then there's Incorporeal, the spawning ad that you need to interrupt or crowd control. It will be updated to be immune to damage, it will spawn less, and if they can get it to work, it will despawn once combat with other mobs is over, which is certainly good. They explained that it is supposed to be the same as Afflicted, but instead of focusing on Dispel utility, it's CC utility. Basically, a constant or consistent pack-by-pack need to maximize your gameplay outside of just hitting your core rotation buttons harder. Then Entangling, they only say that they are keeping an eye on the potency of the snare and the required response. So they may reduce the slow, they, maybe they'll reduce the slow and make you have to move further or move less, whatever. They're open to changing it. They're also going to improve the visuals and the audio for it because it basically ends up being kind of hard to notice without a weak aura when you're in the already big chaos of having nameplates everywhere. As for Explosive has actually been toned down a bit to have less health and to spawn more consistently, with Blizzard saying that it was still a healer problem because people just started healing through the blast instead. A redesign to shift it away from being a healer problem is being discussed, which basically includes the possibility of Explosives applying a shield based on its own remaining health to each mob when it goes off, which would basically mean that damage-wise it's more efficient to swap single target and nuke it, which honestly is, I think, a better design. It's kind of similar to something that we spitballed, so sorry about that. Not that I think it has anything to do with us. Lastly, and this is kind of big, they're moving affixes. Affixes used to appear on level 4 and level 7, right? The ones we're talking about now. But with the changes to scaling and Dragonflight, they now say it makes more sense for affixes to appear first on Keystone level 7 and then on Keystone level 14. And they basically say this gives people more time to actually get used to the dungeons without the affixes ramping up and up and up, and that it better fits the rewards that are being given by the game. Now, this bit, I think, is great news for the players who are struggling to get into Mythic Plus, and they maybe stick to those lower keys because they just don't want to have to deal with, well, as an example, whatever the 2 affixes are, plus a seasonal. So, I suppose they're happy enough. Of course, there's not going to be a seasonal in our next patch. So who knows? I mean, this won't be humongously impactful for the people who will be just going right into very high keys, but I don't think they're the target audience for a lot of, the problem fixing of Mythic Plus. I think a lot of that comes down to people being a bit overwhelmed, a little bit scared. They feel that they'll be socially punished for not knowing things, that sort of thing. So I'd say this is better. I think this focus on having affixes require extra utility solve is kind of interesting because even if it does give you more gameplay, it does reduce how many mechanics designers can actually put into a dungeon baseline because they'll always have to account for extra utility pressure being put on top of whatever they do if affixes are continuously taxing your utility. I don't know. Could there be issues with spawn times, unexpected overlaps? Far from perfect, but I guess, like I said in the last video about this, it is not going to be a miserable experience for most people, especially with these changes, because fundamentally, these affixes should be pretty okay to deal with. Now, that still doesn't speak to the more important discussion, which is fun, but hey, it is movement in the right direction. Next then, drama. Okay. There's always a little bit of drama regarding the high-end content, and this time it's weak auras being very strong. This week, there's a little bit of drama over a weak aura that Echo used in the MDI. So, when you're doing Court of Stars, and before the final boss, you've got to find out who the informant is, and you're supposed to pay attention to what the various characters are wearing, stuff like that. Well, it turns out that a simple macro or weak aura could be used to find the spy immediately, and the way that it works is the dialogue option that you select for the spy looks the same as for the ones who are not the spy, right? The actual, dialogue that you see when you click that is the same. Under the hood, they have a different ID. So the weak aura or macro just checks for the right ID, and if it's the right one, just you know. Now, I think it's pretty clear that this is making use of an oversight by Blizzard. It is absolutely cheating in the spirit of the word, right? Because it is using a macro or an add-on to bypass the intended solution to a dungeon, right? Now, it also doesn't actually speed things up too much basically because paladins can spot the group with the spy immediately with the Legion artifact appearance, and Echo still lost the Court of Stars despite this. Now, the lack of a statement or any punishment from Blizzard does imply that they were perhaps made aware of this at the time and let it through, maybe because they thought, it's our oversight. Like, it's Echo, they're going to do what they can to get the advantage. That's, that is competition. But of course, now that it is out in the wild, Blizzard have hotfixed it. Though it only took a few minutes for somebody to just find the new ID and update the weak aura anyway, meaning that yes, for this one, the weak aura arms race has begun. And I think the reason why I bring this up is because, like with the Mists of Tir na Scythe maze, there is a question here, basically, do these non-combat mechanics really belong in Mythic Plus? I mean, given that Paladins and Demon Hunters do have an advantage on that segment, just because of, what they are, that's a really cool, flavorful touch for a dungeon in a role-playing game. But then, when you have to do it over and over and over again with Mythic Plus, it does seem that for everybody who thinks that these are cool, flavorful things, there's somebody else who just thinks, this is a pain in the ass. This isn't the game that I want to play. So I guess it's a bit of a hard call for Blizzard. What do you think? I mean, I'm all in favor of cool non-combat stuff, but it still does need to be fun for everybody to solve, and it needs to be immune to weak auras, because people will always try to find ways to save time. So I guess, good luck with that one, designers. We've got tier set changes, and thanks to whoever kept on hammering Blizzard on the Disc Priest tier, because they redesigned it again, and I do kind of love it. There was a bunch of usability issues that the designer didn't think about initially, and now this redesign does make it, way stronger and way more usable. Now, there are still things to be fixed, like Arcane and Fire Mage, according to Flex's ongoing campaign, and maybe a bit more spice to the Feral one, rather than a flat agility stack from auto attacks. But at the speed that they are pumping out redesigns here, I guess most of the issues should be ironed out. Overall then, for class changes, we've seen some hefty fixes to an underwhelming DPS Evoker change from the last few builds. That's great to see. Then Shadow Priests, well, looks like it's about to be locked in with its current changes, which is a little unfortunate, but not horrible. As part of our upcoming 10.1 coverage, we will have all the class changes covered for you in a proper breakdown, as we always do, so I guess look forward to that. Next, though, a really cool option that's being added. So one of the nicest changes in this round of the PTR is an updated loot window. Blizzard essentially heard many of the problems with Need, Greed, and Pass no longer really working for the modern day, so they've added a Transmog option. If you have not got the appearance of an item and are eligible, then Transmog will show up instead of the greed option, and it will take priority over normal greed rolls. It's broken on PTR right now, unfortunately, but it basically means that if you need, you want an appearance, right, and you roll Transmog for that appearance, you will beat somebody who has already got it and is just going to try to hit the greed button so that they can disenchant it or vendor it. I know obviously this doesn't solve everybody's problems, say running LFR or normal just for appearances, but I do think this is a nice step in the right direction. Okay, just a few things to round off today's video then. Number 1, the ultimate power potions are no longer bound on pickup, so you can buy them on the auction house to use next here. Then, for any crafter afraid of needing to go into the vaults in 10.1 to get the raid profession recipes, do not worry, Blizzard are actually moving those over to Aberrus, which is pretty sweet. Speaking of profession recipes, they've finally added a whole stack of 10.1's new items onto the PTR, so you can check those out, but they're not yet final. Now, it also does include a new upgrade item that will let crafted items work with the new Shadow Flame upgrade system that we've covered like a whole bunch of videos ago. Finally then, the profession window has got some pretty nice additions actually, like the ability to be minimized, a recipe window that opens when you click a tracked recipe as well, which is really fantastic. So all in all, it's actually been a pretty good week of news. Another instance of Blizzard acting way faster than we are used to, basically when it comes to responding to feedback. So yeah, keep it up, Blizz, and definitely pay attention to the channel in the coming weeks for everything that you'll want to know about 10.1. We've kicked off a bit of a new initiative of how we think about things just internally so that we can be just way better at actually helping you out with the new patch. Anyway, that's it for today's video. A big thanks to watching, of course. Head back here to the channel on Saturday for a big, juicy Shower Lore video. And until then, check out the one that we've linked. I will make sure it is related to that lore that I've talked about. All right, take care. See you next time.